Hey, welcome into the live Locked On Lions squad show. Jake Riepma with you, and Ben Johnson returns to Ford Field.
Natalie Kerwin with FanDuel Sports Network here in Detroit. I'm wearing my favorite shirt today, Angry Runs, because we're expecting a lot of those this coming Sunday.
Bradford Banta here, 22-year NFL veteran player and coach. Strap in as we dissect how the Lions will turn crowd noise into points and Hutch into Caleb Williams' shadow.
One pride. It's the Lions Squad. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
And here we go. Good Thursday morning on a live Locked On Lions squad show. Jake Riepma, Natalie Kerwin, Bradford Banta, and we thank you for joining us live. And don't forget, today's episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. It's a crossover Thursday on Prize Picks. And Nat, Bradford, wow, it has been a few days to unpack what's happened, and we're turning the page because, oh my, the storylines are bigger and better than ever as we enter week 2, the home opener. I'm getting fired up, but I know I need to just relax because it's only Thursday. And this is also a good time to say hello to everybody joining us live on the Locked On Lions squad show. Hopefully this will be the last time I go through all the reminders, but hey, we'll do this live show on Thursdays. And oh yeah, you've got us on post-game show as well after the games on Sunday. And check out Locked On Lions with Matt Derry each and every day. So Nat, I kick it to you first. Ben Johnson comes back to Ford Field. That's the biggest headline.
Biggest headline, so many storylines for this coming Sunday. And I think we've all had this game circled on the calendar as soon as the schedule was released. We were waiting for Ben Johnson's return and what's hopefully a really hostile and uncomfortable environment for him. I'm looking forward to it. You know, both the Lions and the Packers, Lions and the Bears coming off of really tough losses in week 1, Lions to the Packers, Bears to the Vikings. So a bunch of in divisional matchups that didn't go the Lions way or the Bears way. And so this coming Sunday is going to be two teams that are trying to get their first win on the calendar. And it's going to be exciting to hear the crowd, to be in that environment, for, you know, this Lions team to rewrite their story a little bit, because I think they got a lot of harsh criticism this week. I know they're ready just to turn the page over to Sunday and reset what, you know, is hopefully going to be a good showing from them and what we can expect from them. And the Bears are going to bring it too, because that was a really tough loss for them, trying to recover from, you know, a double-digit lead after halftime and blowing it in the fourth quarter. So both teams coming in ready to, you know, mark their territory, and it's going to be a bloodbath.
No, I look for both teams to empty the tank in this game. They're both 0-1 in the division, 0-1 for the regular season. You know, it's going to be a chess match. Both sides have something to prove. I think we're going to have a home field advantage. You know, and look, there's going to be some key takeaways that we should be looking for going into this game. Ben Johnson knows what the Lions organization is all about. Fortunately, the Lions know what Ben Johnson is all about. Now, the key is going to be what kind of plan is Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for Chicago, cooking up for him. And that's the one outlier, so to speak. But we'll see. I mean, looking forward to this matchup, and I'm looking forward to the Lions hopefully putting that to bed after Monday's film session, and then start preparing for the Bears as they should have on Tuesday, Wednesday, and now today, Thursday.
It's the Locked On Lions squad show. We're live with you on Thursday. So if you're just checking in and firing up the YouTube, we appreciate that. Let us know if you've got plans to be at Ford Field for the home opener, maybe a little tailgate scene and everything else that coincides with the home opener. A lot of people checking in, which we appreciate. Say hello. We got a shout out to Art, who says good morning. Kurt gives us a little deuces emoji, peace sign. There you go, Ned. I knew you'd have the deuces sign ready to go. Are kids still saying deuces or peace or what? Help me out there as our resident
I think so.
Insider. Is that no cap? Am I what else? Help me out here.
Yeah, wow. You're throwing them all out. You know the millennial terms. You're good. You blend right in.
For sure. Shout out to Jeremy Hardy, who says Lions by 2 TDs. It's a get right game for Detroit. He says, I love the confidence. And Bradford, I'll kick it to you next for kind of exactly that, where hey, we're not going to dwell in the past with what happened in week 1, but at the same time, you turn that tape on and you look at everything we discussed on the postgame show on Sunday and what went wrong as far as some of the breakdowns in communication on the offensive line, getting Hutch more involved and that defense getting more pressure. Let's start with some of the things that perhaps the adjustments you expect to see the Lions to make going from week 1 on the road in Lambeau to week 2 home opener at Ford Field.
I honestly look for Goff or for Johnny Morton to put Goff to get him in a rhythm very quickly in the game. Because if you go back and you look at the stats versus the Packers, I mean, the average game per pass play was only 4.7 yards. Green Bay was 8.5. And that was a huge difference. You know, and then you also look at the yards per carry, which was, 46 rush yards for 2.1 yards per carry. Ugh, not good. Not good. So the offensive line has to take that onto their shoulders, and all they have to do is just turn around and tell Gibbs and Montgomery, follow me. And if they can establish the ground game, then they're going to have something rolling in Ford Field. And if we can go back to, if we can get a crowd noise such as, oh gosh, what was it, 2002, 2001, somewhere around there, whenever we had gotten the Bears to jump, was it either delay a game or false start about 4 or 5 times just because of crowd noise. And the crowd actually got the game ball. The fans at the game got the game ball for there. And I think it's still displayed down at Ford Field as well. Get the noise going, get everybody rocking, get Goff in rhythm, and take advantage of those little plays and let your playmakers go make plays.
No, 100%. The thought of Ford Field just being absolutely electric and a ruckus crowd creating an advantage will be absolutely huge. And that's actually kind of where I want to go next to, with just the number of penalties this Lions team committed in that opening game. Just now in terms of discipline and being uncharacteristically out of sync for a Dan Campbell team. And I thought Dan Campbell's comments this week to the media were pretty telling and essentially reminding people that, it hasn't all recently. It's been 15-win seasons. It's been at times pure domination, but it hasn't always been that way, especially in the Dan Campbell era, reminding people, this team started 1-6 2 years ago, and it took a little while to get their footing. But just in relation to getting that footing and what that looks like, cleaning up the penalties and everything, what are you hoping to see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to see a lot, even just piggybacking off of Bradford's comments and what players said this past week about the performance in Green Bay is, communication, accountability, which players did hold themselves accountable. Taylor Decker being the leader on that offensive line and explaining that, hey, there was miscommunication everywhere. And when there's miscommunication with our group up front, it affects everybody else. And that's exactly what we were able to see. And of course, being disciplined is another part of the game that needs to be held accountable with every player as well. And so that means avoiding penalties at all costs and situational awareness and being able to recognize, what the team is doing right, what the team is doing wrong, and being able to adjust and not giving the Bears any sort of advantage at any point in the game. Penalties are things you can prevent. Those are preventables. And those are things that, I'm sure they discussed this week too. So I'm hoping that, players are smarter about the game, more disciplined, not giving up, big plays to the Bears. I hope that there is better communication, which it already feels like the guys are starting to get on page with that. And Dan Campbell explained that too in his press conference this week, that, hey, we immediately got with our O-line this week. We're going back to the basics, footwork, head placement, everything that's important in being a cohesive unit, and guys holding each other accountable, and Jared Goff getting more used to the play calling with John Morton and having time for that to develop. So I think all of those categories are what everyone's looking at to see take a step up. Penalties included in that, with what you're asking from me right now, penalties, being a huge part of that. But I think all of that collectively is what we're hoping to see take a step up against Chicago.
No doubt, no doubt. I would also add, watching Monday Night Football, and this is obviously the Locked On Lions squad show, so we're looking at things through a Lions perspective 99.9% of the time. But watching that game on Monday Night Football between the Bears and the Vikings, a standalone game, national TV, the debut of JJ McCarthy, we're not calling him a rookie and everything, but that big of a stage, Ben Johnson's first game as head coach, combined with the history, and I won't even say recent history, the history of the Chicago Bears, this is what they do, for it to play out that way. Bradford, I'll kick it to you for the kind of the former player perspective. How much does that weigh on the guys in that Chicago Bears locker room, where for 3 quarters they look dominant, and then for it to all go to, forgive my language, but it all went to hell fast, and it to play out that way? Does that have a trickle down carryover effect into week 2, especially on a short week where you're talking a Monday night game into a Sunday, so one day shorter?
What it boils down to is players and coaches owning their mistakes. I would imagine Ben Johnson got up in front of the team on Tuesday or Wednesday and said, hey, this is where I messed up. And if you have your leader do that and get up, because I always tell my kids, all right, if you come at me with a problem, let's have a solution. And if he were to get up in front of his team and be like, hey, this is where I messed up, let's just say on the time management situation, hey, we should have kicked the ball out of bounds, because everybody across the league knows that Cairo Santos does not have the strongest leg to kick it out of the end zone every time. Kicking it out of bounds, you're only giving up 5 yards of field position, but no time is running off the clock, and that's right. What saves you valuable seconds there.
Right.
And to give you more time at the end of the game. And that has been discussed greatly throughout the NFL media and talking heads about what happens. What surprised me the most was that the kick returner actually had to look over to the sidelines on whether or not he got red light or green light to come out of the end zone. That should have been previously discussed. That, hey, bud, if you're not out of the back of the end zone, you are returning that thing, and you are burning seconds off the clock. Right. And then another one with the rules of the game with Hockenson and Chicago burning the timeout and Hockenson getting the ball punched out with his knee on the ground. What they failed to understand, at least the staff as a whole, was that the ball is part of the player. And so if that player is down, which his knee was obviously down, then the ball is down as well. And somebody got in his ear, and all the teams have them now, is a guy that is a situational coach being like, hey, we need to challenge this. This is the correct rule. Well, that aspect in their game plan failed because they had to burn a timeout.
Yeah, and I think it's such and again, it's a standalone game, so you're under the microscope. Everybody's watching. If this game takes place at Sunday, that previous game, Vikings-Bears, takes place on Sunday at 1, does everybody have every answer for Ben Johnson's coaching debut? Probably not. But the fact of the matter is, there were some significant growing pains for Ben Johnson. And to your point, Bradford, kind of some mismanaged situations on multiple fronts, and none bigger than at the end there that ultimately played a huge role in costing this Bears team the game. And so, Nat, I go to you. I mean, this Bears team is going to be angry, and I'll say this though, as much as it pains me, because everybody likes to be right, and my take, I know that's such a buzz phrase now in today's climate, but my take was I didn't believe in Caleb Williams. There's way too much stuff, I'll put it, when he was coming out of the league, and he's going to be the savior and everything. I was more of a believer in JJ McCarthy, a guy that won a national championship. He's literally won everywhere he's been, including high school. And so Monday night, I felt a little vindicated, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, Caleb Williams and that Bears offense, for sure, the first drive looked really, really good. And there's no doubt he has a ton of athletic ability and can beat you in a multitude of ways. What are your thoughts just on this Bears team and Caleb Williams in general?
Yeah, I think I was with you on this, Jake, where I did initially have more faith in JJ McCarthy coming out of college than maybe Caleb Williams. I think just after his first season, there were some question marks. Obviously, when you look at how the Bears did as a whole, you look at their record, how they finished in the NFC North and how they finished last season. It's hard to, it was a little bit hard to, I guess, have a full perspective on maybe the player that he could become, but put more pieces around him and see what happens this year under a brand new head coach. And I felt like we could see that on Monday night. To your point, that first drive, I think it had Lions fans sit back a little bit and go, whoa, okay, looks like the NFC North is going to be, top tier this year. If they're going to go force the Vikings to go, 3 and out on multiple drives, their defense looked incredibly strong. To your point too, Caleb Williams, he's mobile, he's athletic, uses both his arm and his legs to get around. He can escape the pocket and still make long, deep drives. To me, he looks like an improved player under Ben Johnson. I think the Bears are a team you shouldn't take lightly. I think they also have a lot of weapons. They have a really good running game as well. They have our former player in DeAndre Swift as part of that running attack. They have a new tight end in Colston Loveland, who's going to be, a good rookie for them, I think, as he continues to develop. They have good pieces there in Chicago. And I think, under a guy like Ben, who we know is smart, who we know how his game works, having him here in Detroit, I think they're going to be a good team. I do. And I think that's why Sunday is going to be, it is going to be a chess match, because both sides know each other really well from a coaching perspective. And I think that's what makes this game that much more interesting. And Chicago being a team that you can't write off anymore. I think they do have talent.
We will take a deep dive on exactly that, both from the Lions offensive perspective and defensive perspective. Let's talk offense next. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started on a live Locked On Lions squad show. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends at 5 Hour Energy and the Transfusion for the win. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. It's perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. So whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. And you know what? Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The great ginger lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without ever leaving the course or chasing down the Bev card. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy Snap and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com, 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary, but it excludes the Masters tournament, This promotion ends October 31st, 2025. And we are cruising right along on a live Locked On Lions squad show. Jake Rietman, Natalie Kerwin, and Bradford Banta, your Locked On Lions squad show. We dive into the offensive matchup in this one. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, it's time to turn the page. We're going to make the most improvements from week 1 to week 2. Bradford, any other coaching cliches I can fit in there? But that's the case for this Lions team.
Let's give it a shot. I mean, as long as we find rhythm, because last week, I mean, we looked like Elaine from Seinfeld dancing. It just wasn't working.
That was a good reference.
Rhythm.
Yeah. Hey, also kudos to all of us. Bradford makes, I won't say an old man reference, but an older reference. And Nat, you picked up on it. I picked up on it. We're all on the same page.
It makes you old.
Dang it.
I love Seinfeld. Oh man. Hey, I'm also proud of us. We made it 21 minutes before we went off the rails a little bit here, guys. That's a new record for us. Way to go, squad.
Duly noted.
Normally it's at the beginning, so this is nice to see 21 minutes on there, and we're just starting to go a little crazy.
That's right. We'll bring it back. Where do we want to start with this offense? I think it's one of those cases where week 1 was just so glaringly painful and the mistakes were very obvious, whether it was, Jahmyr Gibbs making NFL history for the wrong reasons with 10 catches and 31 yards. No time in the history of the NFL has anyone had 10 catches with that few of yards. So just crazy there. But again, obviously it starts up front. We've talked about offensive line communication and so on and so forth. Bradford, I'll kick it to you first. Game plan wise, the easy go-to is kind of, hey, this was Johnny Morton's first game as the offensive coordinator and it didn't look good. What do you think was taking place in the film room from the conclusion of Sunday ahead to this coming game?
Just a lot of self-reflection and self-scouting and everybody having input. Because I know Goff will have input on the game plan, on what he likes and what he doesn't like. But the thing that stood out the most is just like we had referenced earlier, excuse me, is that this offense just has to find rhythm. If you find that rhythm, and then once you get in the red zone, let's finish the drive with touchdowns and not field goals, because the MVP of the game last week was Bates, and he's the only one that stood out offensively. And with it goes back to offensive line, and Decker has come out in interviews this week and said we just need to communicate better. And referring to Aaron Rodgers is relax, and they're going to get this right. And because Chicago is going to go through growing pains. I mean, this is in just making reference to a few years ago with the Lions starting out 1-6. And this is Ben's first head coaching job. So they're going to go through growing pains. It's up to us to take advantage of those growing pains and capitalize on them offensively and turn that capitalization into 6 points and taking care of business and hopefully putting this team away early.
I think, looking at the film this week, there was, a lot of tough conversations and guys, showing accountability and John Morton, as you said too, being able to reflect and look back at what things went wrong, what can be improved, and looking at the offense as a whole and what is going to set this group up for success. And we know, establishing the run game is a huge part of that, which is what this team really lacked on Sunday against the Packers. We could see too, they didn't have any trouble in between the 20s. They were able to dink and dunk, and that was the name of the game for this group. But it was, every drive either ended up in getting a field goal or a turnover. And the most important thing is being able to execute on these drives in the red zone, not going 1 for 4 and walking away with 6 points. That's going to be the biggest key. And using the weapons that you have, using your run game to your advantage. I mentioned this in our whip around, guys, at the beginning. This shirt right here, Angry Runs. I don't know if you guys are Good Morning Football watchers.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say.
Network. One of my favorite shows. David Montgomery won this award 2 or 3 times last year. My dad and I did get featured one of the shows. We should play that one of these episodes for the people.
We absolutely should.
It is great to bring back that memory. Anyways, we're going to need a lot of these out of these guys. We had Penei Sewell up for one of these awards last year. David Montgomery 3 times, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, the Lions have established themselves as a team that runs the ball, runs it well. We have a duo in Gibbs and Demo that should scare opposing defenses. And you got to bring these guys out. These guys are the X factors. So I'm getting fired up being able to.
I love it. I'm getting fired up too, because I love Good Morning Football. I miss Peter Schrager on that. I think he misses being on NFL Network too, just saying. But because Kyle Brandt's the one that does the Angry Runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember clear as day seeing you and your dad featured on that. That was so awesome. But to your point though, I think it reflects who this yes, it's Angry Runs, and it's a segment on TV or whatever, but it reflects who this Lions team is, and like part of the personality and the characteristics that have made them so good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, it does start up front. The O-line has to connect to be able to give, Jahmyr and David the space to be able to do what they do and execute. But again, yes, Angry Runs, that is part of this Lions team. And that's what I'm going to be looking for. I mean, there's a lot that I'm going to be looking for, but I feel like being able to establish the game up front is going to be key for this group. And you got to challenge Chicago in a lot of ways. And I think you got the right players and personnel to do that.
Look, yeah. I think, Jarrett has been missing, the D lineman for Chicago has been missing practice this week with a knee. I think if he doesn't play, I mean, you're going to see duo and inside zone runs in the A gaps, and they're just going to take it straight ahead just to establish that. And that's where you just have to dent them up front. And talking about angry runs, there's no more angrier run than running right up the middle.
Mm-hmm. Our guy Joseph Osteen here agrees. Monty between the tackles, I love it. And then Art adds, push the O-line, clean pocket, easy win. Let's not get overconfident, Art. But I'd also say to that point, and again, we're doing more, I guess, opponent scout than normal because they just played a Monday night game and we all watched it in its entirety. But a lot to be learned from the success the Vikings had in that fourth quarter, where quite literally it was like a switch was flipped. They started running the ball successfully. That opened up all kinds of opportunities for JJ McCarthy. And on that first touchdown to Justin Jefferson, where he's able to dissect the seam because the linebackers are caught cheating up because the run game had been so successful. And I know that's football 101, but Bradford, I mean, the Lions got to be looking at that tape, salivating in the thought of, okay, if we can establish a run game, Jared Goff as a pocket passer, words are hard, can get back to the Jared Goff we know and love.
Yeah, I mean, Sally sells seashells by the seashore, and that too. So
easy.
Come on.
But no, I look.
I'm fired off. Bradford's taking the rest of the show.
Look. You have to establish the run to get the play action going, and everybody knows that's where Goff is most effective. Take advantage of the players that played well last game. So Laporta, Amon-Ra, keep Amon-Ra's, let his quickness in the short stick routes, glance routes, let his quickness get you the yards after catch. Laporta, let his body versus man or zone get his yards after catch, because you're looking at a big target there, and then, hey, I mean, why not run a smoke to J-Mo? Because, I mean, it just let him go do his thing and send a couple of the old linemen out there to lead the way and let him kind of pick and choose his way in and around those the Chicago Bears defense. But also is get Gibbs a little bit more involved in the pass game, but in space. And that's where you're going to see motion by the wide receivers for the offensive skill personnel, so to speak, delineate on what the coverage is going to be.
100%. And this comment read my mind, so we're going to flash it because our guy Joseph Osteen is all over it. And I know based on the fact that it was a late touchdown, and you can make the argument, sure, that Isaac Tesla's first touchdown was in garbage time, this, that, and the other. But miss me with all that when you see a one-handed catch, toe tapping in the back corner. I know we had the pleasure, Bradford, of hearing the Kerwin crew erupt in celebration, which far and away was the highlight. And I mean, that goes without saying, but Nat, in true Kerwin form, like, we loved seeing Isaac Tesla late in that game. I, for one, hope that he's a little bit more involved in the offense, in the game plan. And, I don't want to speak for you, but are you in that same line of thinking?
Yeah, the Kerwin fam, they're big coleslaw fans over here. So just have to lay that out. You heard it loud and clear. I wish our audience got to hear the screams from about 15 feet away from where I'm sitting.
Again, highlight of the game for me.
It was awesome. I'm glad you encouraged me to go out there to watch it, because didn't get to see it live, but at least got to see the replay. So I think Isaac Tesla personally is a hidden X factor that you can use this coming Sunday. And Dan Campbell admitted he wishes he could have used him more last week, but he was battling an illness. So it didn't play out that way. But I think he's a perfect, at his size, what he can do, what we saw with that crazy one-handed catch. He is a natural mismatch in the red zone. 6'4", speedy, like all the factors that he has as a player coming in as a rookie, we can already see. There's such a high upside I think we're going to see from him. There's a reason that he was drafted here. But I think he is a guy that is perfect, that you got to take advantage of in the red zone. And that's where the Lions, I think, are hopefully going to use him, especially on Sunday. I think he's your guy that you can depend on. We just got a little taste of it against Green Bay. And it's exciting to see. The screams in this house were just a part of it. So yeah, no, I'm a big Tesla fan. I'm excited to see what more he can bring now that he's hopefully on, full health and not sick anymore.
Yeah, because he only played 3 plays. I mean, that's 4% of the game on the offensive side of the ball. And let's just break it down a little bit more from a coaching aspect. You have the red zone usage. Let's go from the green zone, so to speak. I don't know how Detroit breaks down their, once you get inside the red zone, there's a couple yard lines, that demarcation where there's different plays that are going to be called. So we'll just call the green zone from the 8 to the 12-yard line. And that's where Tesla and also Laporta are going to come into play by using their size to box out the defensive backs or possibly even linebackers, and just let Goff throw the ball up and just let them use their hand size and hand strength to bring that ball down. And that's one thing that Tesla did a great job of versus Green Bay, because you talk about hand size and the use of the glove. And I mean, just to bring that thing down and then have enough body control at that size to get, 2 body parts inbounds for the touchdown. So look for those guys to weigh heavy into that red zone, green zone type area.
I love it. I love it. And our deep dive is going to continue. We'll flip sides of the ball and talk a little Lions defense versus Bears offense. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. While you're waiting, throw in the comments who you expect to have a big game defensively for the Lions. We're going to break it down next on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. So write this down right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Why do I love using FanDuel? So glad you asked. It fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Now, me personally, I'm more of a meats and potatoes guy. Give me a good over-under bet or maybe against the spread, but I have been cold, so don't take any advice from me. But that all changes on Sunday. And if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. We are back, and we are live on a live Locked On Lions Squad show. And I don't think we lost any viewers during that commercial break. So shout out to everybody out there in the chat. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you hanging out with us on a Thursday because it's time to have some fun. And it's time to dive in to the Lions defense. I know where we want to start, at least where I want to start. It was so good to see Aiden Hutchinson back in full uniform, but we need to see Aiden Hutchinson doing Aiden Hutchinson things. Who wants to start? And I know that's my job to say who's going to start. So that's on me. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Nat, you're up.
Okay. Because I saw Bradford starting to smile, so I thought he had a comment to
go
start
flip
us
a coin
off.
here. Hang on. Get after it, Nat. You're up.
Get after it. All right. Wow. Of all the many things we were able to take away from that dreadful game at Lambeau Field, the biggest one defensively being there was no pass rush. That's going to be a huge thing for this Lions defense on Sunday. You have to generate a pass rush and get to the quarterback. You have to get Caleb Williams not on his feet scrambling, which he is very good at doing. You got to collapse the pocket. His mobility will kill you. So I am looking for Aiden Hutchinson to step up in a huge way, not dropping back on third down. That was also a huge part of our discussion on Sunday as well. And he wasn't too happy about it when asked about it post-game. He said, yeah, looks like we're not going to be doing that too much anymore. He recognized that maybe Calvin Shepard's, signals to him weren't maybe the way that they should go, right? So I'm looking for him to step up in a big way. He knows he can be better. He's got that motor. He's got that drive. He knows what he needs to do. And in a place like Ford Field, when the crowd is loud and you're motivated by that, you have Ben Johnson back in the building, all of that. I feel like Aiden Hutchinson is just a guy that gets fueled by that kind of stuff. And Bradford, obviously, you knowing him personally too. He's got a work ethic and an attitude about the way he plays that's just so infectious, and I think he's really going to bring it because he knows he didn't live up to the expectations of him on Sunday. And granted, again, as we said too, it was his first game back at full speed since last October when he was injured. So I think now that he has a game under his belt, we're going to expect a lot more out of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's only right to think that, but what they have to keep in mind is to keep Caleb Williams basically in the pocket and then compress the pocket between Hutch, Davenport, Reeder in the middle, but push in and don't give him scrambling lanes that he can evade tacklers. And a coaching term that I like to use is whenever the defensive ends rush, you can't fall off the cliff. And what I mean by that is whenever they're rushing, they have to remain in front of or even with the quarterback. Once they pass the quarterback, then they're going to fall off the cliff. And that opens up running lanes for Caleb Williams to allow him to do what he likes to do best. And that's get outside the pocket and go look for, off timing plays and just go play street ball. Let's go play yard ball. That's all he wants to do. Now, there is some method to their madness, but at the same time, if we can do that and then mix coverages, and what I mean by mixing coverages is just showing one coverage, and then once the ball is snapped, move to another coverage. That also helps with the pass rush as well, and then keeping him in the pocket at the same time, it confuses the situation for him. And I think that's why he is so quick to scramble whenever teams do that. And he's able to get off timing throws, and he does it very effectively. But if the defensive ends, stay on the cliff and don't fall off, then we're able to get a push in the middle and then confuse Caleb Williams, I think then we would be on to something. And then also get turnovers. If we can get that ball out, and because those are game-changing plays, and it's disheartening whenever you turn the ball over for the entire bench for the entire bench of the team that does turn the ball over.
Oh, for sure. And as you were breaking that down perfectly, I had the exact same thought, just in terms of the stark contrast in styles between these two quarterbacks. Goff is a guy that's going to process, check this read, process, check the next read, process. One of the, I want to say few good throws, but one of the productive plays the Lions had last week against Green Bay. I remember Brady, it was the CBS game. Who was calling the game? It would have been Nance and Romo. So Romo saying, that's what makes Jared Goff. He just went through 4 different reads and found his 4th target. Whereas watching Caleb Williams on Monday night, it's the exact opposite. He's making 1 or 2 reads, a check, and then looking to escape the pocket. And the strategic approach to stop a quarterback like that defensively, you could make the argument it's maybe not easier or more difficult, but it's just drastically different. And to your point, with staying in your rush lanes, keeping the integrity of your rush lanes to avoid falling off the cliff, and then from a back 7 standpoint, you have to, there's the idea of having a spy on Caleb Williams to prevent him from running and scrambling. But also there is a little bit of that backyard football where when coverages and routes break down offensively, and you turn into man coverage and you're playing street ball out there. And I feel good about the athletes that the Lions have in their back 7 to be able to maintain coverage after a play breaks down and you got Caleb Williams scrambling all over the place and trying to make the off schedule throws. So again, one's not better or worse. It's just such an interesting film study of how drastically different they are. Turnovers, like you mentioned, Bradford, huge. That obviously was lacking in the first game against the Packers. I think the Bears are certainly more prone to turning the ball over than that Packers team was. And again, the way that fourth quarter transpired as far as a blueprint for the Lions to go out and replicate, but they have to do their thing, and they have to reestablish what's made them a prominent team in the last 2 years, both offensively and defensively. So that being said, I know I just rambled on for like 10 minutes and we just lost our entire audience, and I'm sorry guys, that's on me. And I'll take the punishment for that. But Nat, I kick it over to you. Let's talk a little bit about this Ford Field crowd. I feel like I haven't been to the last game I was at, I think was the playoff win over Tampa Bay. You've been there more recently. What I know the obvious to expect from Ford Field is chaos and noise, but I do think there's a serious strategic home field advantage to be had from Ford Field.
I think there is. And around the league, you've heard, multiple news outlets and journalists that have come into that building and teams that have come into that building, how hostile of an environment it can be. When you're in the building and you look up at the big screen, they put the decibel meter up there. And I feel like the level is usually hitting as far right as it can go, especially in those playoff games. And I think it makes a big difference. Obviously being indoors, the sound is more trapped inside. I think Detroit fans, they've obviously waited years and years to get winning football, and they've finally been able to get it these last couple of seasons. And I think you've just drawn more people, sold out crowds, seat prices have gone up like crazy. I think it does make a huge difference. And when Ben Johnson runs through that tunnel and comes into the field on Sunday, there's going to be a ton of boos. I expect it to be an awful environment, hopefully, for the Bears. I think I remember last year, weren't fans chirping at Matt LaFleur when the Lions were playing the Packers, and he got really frustrated about it and brought it up in his press conference? Maybe Ben Johnson will be doing the same thing. That's what you hope for. You hope it is a place that no one likes to come and play. And Ben knows how it can get on any given Sunday. So he knows what to expect. I'm sure they're probably trying to crank up crowd noise this week in practice to try and maybe prepare players in some sort of way. But I don't know if there's any preparing for it.
So I look. Whenever Detroit gets rocking, it's something special. I can speak from experience, and it is a blast to be a part of. And to replicate that every home game is something to be said for the fans of Detroit, and how loyal they are, how long they've stuck with the team, and the organization is putting a good product out onto the field. And it's fun to go to games, and it is a blast to walk into Ford Field and to see how much they have going on, and to keep that energy level and just sustain it drive after drive after drive after drive, and see the interaction that the fans have, with the players, with the coaches, with everybody that's involved. It's something special, and tip of the cap to the fans that go to the game. Thank you for coming, and they're going to put a product out on this field this next Sunday that I think is going to make you very proud.
For sure. One other note that I just saw come across the good old X Machine, Twitter, whatever we want to call it. Kelvin Shepherd talking in his most recent media availability about preparing for this game. And obviously it means a lot, but kind of compared it to when you would have inter squad stuff in training camp going against a Ben Johnson offense for the last several years and everything. And I think that's important to note as well. And we've talked about it at length, the familiarity of all this, but Bradford, I'll go back to you from a coaching perspective, gearing up to try and stop and I don't know if Calvin Shepherd and Ben Johnson were friends, but they're on the same staff. So the familiarity is there. There's it's just one more angle to look at this. It means a little bit more on Sunday.
Yeah. Cause I had read something either this morning or earlier in the week, and somebody asked Dan about all of Ben's trick plays. And trick plays are nothing more than the opponent just not following through with their keys or just not following through with their fundamentals. If the Lions just stick with their fundamentals and not try to make the big play, let the big play fall in their lap. The trick plays are not going to have anything to do with the outcome of this game. I firmly believe that if the players follow through with their keys and fundamentals. If you have this guy, stay with him the entire time. Don't take the bait. Don't try to come up and make the, I guess you can't do it anymore. The ESPN top 10 big play, or as far as big hit. You can't do that.
Jacked.
Yeah, exactly.
Or jacked up.
Now it's just mossed. That's it. So now it's just moss. It's not jacked anymore.
I got confused with the segments. I was trying to say jacked up, and I said you got jacked. It's you got mossed. Golly, Reetma, you screwed it up again. You guys knew what I meant.
You knew what you were getting at.
Yeah. But wasn't it Stuart Scott? Wasn't it Stuart Scott? You got jacked. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
they threw those out. Let's see. I don't know, probably about mid 2000s, somewhere
Yep.
around there. So,
Oh man, I used to watch those highlight tapes with my brothers, and we'd just be jacked up, man. That's why I wanted to play football, so I could jack people up, man.
well, we all did, and I
Yeah.
mean, in the locker room, like
Yeah.
if you made the top 10 and were
Yeah,
on the giving side of those,
that's
I
right.
mean, it was the talk of the locker room. And if you were
No
on the receiving side of that, you were the talk of
Mhm.
the locker room, and you
Oh,
didn't want to
man.
be on the receiving side.
Yeah, yep. I understand the safety and everything, but man, I miss those days. Let's make football great again. We are so overtime on this one, guys, and that's my fault because I'm screaming "get jacked up" instead of "you got mossed" and everything else. But let's do some keys for the game and tie a bow on this one right after this on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends at Mazda. Choose move. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. Here we go. What an ad read that was. Oh, gotta love that. Let's do some keys for the game as we tie a knot and tie a bow on this Locked On Lions Squad Show. Lions Bears Sunday at 1:00. So back into that early window. We'll be with you immediately following the conclusion of what I foresee being the Lions' first victory of the season. So if you don't want to miss anything, make sure you set your notifications up on YouTube. So anytime we schedule a live broadcast, you'll get that nice notification. So you never miss a thing right here on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. All right. Keys to victory. We've broken it down at length. We've covered every angle. We know the Lions' interior offensive line's got to be better. Defense has to get some more pressure. So since I just, stole the biggest two keys of the game, Nat, I'll go to you first. What are some keys that you want to see out of the Lions in week number 2?
Yeah, stealing my thunder. What are we doing? I'm still replaying the whole "you should have said you got mossed" in my head. I'm still laughing about that. You're never living that down.
Please,
I'm
please
just putting it
don't
out there right now.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. As you said, O-line has to have better communication, cohesion. They know it. Taylor Decker's taking accountability for it. They're talking, they're working on it. Pass rush has to be evident, has to be strong up front, generating more pressure. I think you got to take some more deep shots early to help loosen up the defense. I don't think it can be this dink and dunk that we saw on Sunday. I think you got to be able to get to your targets in, using Isaac Tesla inside the 20, Jamison Williams. You got to have trust in those guys to win those one-on-one battles against the Bears secondary. And I think the guys, as we've harped on throughout this entire episode, is just finding a rhythm, because that's when the Lions thrive, is when they play quickly, they move quickly, and when Goff is comfortable. So those are the pieces that I would add as far as keys to the game for a successful Sunday afternoon.
Bradford?
Yeah, no, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Nat was saying and just, get straight to it. Whenever we put the stats together at the end of the game, how did they do in the red zone compared to the Bears? All right, let's be +1 there. Okay, we need to score more times than they do whenever we get the ball into the red zone. Obviously, you gotta eliminate defensively the chunk plays or the big plays by the Bears. And get Gibbs. Let's go. He'll get his touches running the ball, but I want to see him at least, I would say greater than 40 yards receiving. And we're talking just simple routes out of the backfield, or possibly even putting him in the slot and letting him go to work there on the linebackers if they happen to be playing man-to-man. And we're talking just simple routes, like just option route, angle routes, something that gets Goff into a rhythm of throwing the ball and just completing the ball and then taking a shot with J-Mo over the top. Nat, what you were saying, taking a shot possibly early. And then one of my third ones is, do you know how much of a pain in the neck it is to get up off the ground every time you drop back to pass? It gets tiring and you get frustrated and you don't give up, but you're just like, oh my gosh, can somebody come help me? And then the guy that let a defensive lineman knock you down comes over and helps you up, and you just give him that glance like, why are you helping me up? You just allowed the guy to come and hit me to put my derriere on the freaking ground. I'm tired of getting up. That's the mind thought that the defensive line or the defensive players have to put into Caleb Williams on Sunday. So if you get to him, let's say 11 plus times, and you're just constantly putting him on the ground legally and not getting, these touch calls of him getting pushed to the ground, those are my key to the games. And I think crowd noise is going to come into play as well.
That was the last one that I had that hadn't been said yet. So crowd noise. I'll starting field position's huge. Special teams got to be special. And I think there's an advantage to be had for the Lions from a coaching perspective. And I know Ben Johnson will just be in game number 2, but as we talked about, there was some evidence early on and late in that game of just some mismanagement from the Bears as a coaching staff. And I'm not implying that they'll not learn from those mistakes, but at the same time, yes, Dan Campbell and this Lions, you got guys in new roles as far as the coordinators, but you still got the head honcho and Dan Campbell leading and calling the shots for this Lions team back in the friendly confines and familiarity of Ford Field. So let's wrap it up with some score predictions. Obviously, we were all unfortunately off week 1, but it's a new week. It is a new week. So I'll kick it to Nat first for a little score prediction action because I'm still formulating mine.
Okay. I think I am going to go with Lions win, of course, 24 to Bears 21. Now, the reason I say this is because the Lions have taken 5 of the last 6 against the Bears, but 3 of those have been 1-score wins. So I think this is going to be a close one. Again, both coaches, lots of familiarity with each other. I think it will be a bloodbath and a chess match, as we've described it too. So I think it's going to be close. I think the Lions will win by 3.
Okay. I like it. I'm not going to use half points anymore. That didn't work last week. So
let's go with the way of thinking.
Yeah, we're going to use whole numbers from here on out. So I'm going to say 31-30. And here's another just kind of something to think about as we get into the game is how aggressive is Ben Johnson going to be on 4th down? How aggressive? He knows that Dan is going to be aggressive, but how aggressive is Ben going to be? That's just a question or something to observe as the game goes along. But I'm saying 31-30 Lions.
All right. I was just going to say, I got to write these down in the group chat so that we can award whoever is closest, even though week 1, we did not have an award. We don't even need to revisit those. So Bradford, you got 31-30. Nat, you've got 24-21.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go against the mold a little bit here. I've got all kinds of confidence in our Lions, as we all do. And I don't have confidence in the Ben Johnson-led Chicago Bears offensively. And not only did the Bears collapse in the 4th quarter, but they also benefited from a pick 6 scoring-wise. So that was they only scored 2 touchdowns offensively. I'm going to say they scored those same 2 touchdowns, but the Lions all over it, 28-14. Give me the Lions by 2 touchdowns in the home opener. So with that, one last final thoughts. I'll kick it to Bradford first, and Nat bring us home, and we have another Locked On Lions squad show in the books.
Gosh, I guess I said my final thought too soon. How aggressive is Ben Johnson going to be on fourth down? No, I look, I'm looking forward to this game. I'm curious to see how the Lions are going to bounce back after a loss. Did they learn from it, and did they correct their mistakes? I say yes.
Both teams trying to get the monkey off their back. It's going to be just a rival game times 100. I feel like the storylines have written themselves. I'm looking for explosive plays. I'm looking for energy. I'm looking for touchdowns, and I'm looking for Ford Field to be rocking.
I love it. I love it. We will talk to everybody following the conclusion of Bears Lions on Sunday. 1 o'clock kick. Make sure you like today's video. Helps the old YouTube algorithm out a great deal. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out Locked On Lions with Matt Derry. And for Natalie Kerwin and Bradford Banta, I'm Jake Riepma. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, which will be Sunday after Lions Bears in week 2 of the NFL. See ya.